So like we sort of said, failure doesn't define us. We all face challenges. Often it's just we're not there yet. We haven't got there yet. And how do we really, like that New Zealand Defence Force one I mentioned, pull that apart and look at it and learn from it. So how are we able to develop? So in your little things you've got, there should be a little workshop thing in here, which is just around, hey, again, as we learn more about growth mindset, we'll come to the point at which we wanted to know more about planning in the face of failure. The action plan activity lets us come up with our own ideas on how we proceed when we face difficulty. So what is, should be in your little booklet this, so what's a recent situation where you found you failed?
What was that?
What's a recent situation where you feel that you failed? Now you can break this into some little groups here and pull your chairs around and talk about it as a group for 10 minutes. Good to be vulnerable, good to talk about this stuff. Or you can do it yourself. And so in your booklet it should say, what happened? What was the result? What were you thinking at the time? What have you learned that can help you? And what new ideas do you have for moving forward? What's your new plan? What will you think about to keep yourself going? So have you got those little questions in there?
Yes.
Yep.
Page 5.
So again, you can pull your chairs around, do it for a group, or you can do it yourself. But it's a pretty simple exercise, but again, until we actually stop and think about what actually happened then, we don't actually, all we do is go on and carry on and doing the same thing, don't we? We don't learn out of it. So it's a healthy thing. Even when we do customer presentations with customers, we always go for a debrief coffee afterwards and say, well, gee, how did we do with that, and what was that, and what should have we done different, and we weren't on top of our game, or whatever it was, But again, how do we learn from these things? All right. Cool. So 10 minutes. Yeah. There we go. Exercise. Good to stop and reflect. Good to think about these things called failures. That's how we learn, isn't it? But it's the process, isn't it? And then when we have these different things, what we actually do about it and how we intentionally do it, because it's so easy just to carry on and do the same thing again, and how we have a plan. So there's another one in your little book, as well, there should be. And it talks around some honest answers. These are probably something to do just yourselves. So I feel I am strong in the areas of. I feel I'm weak in the areas of. These are good things to talk about. But I tell you, I've got tons of weaknesses. And we've always done work style profiles, the PAPI profiles in our group. And even a lot of companies we've bought which have been financially dysfunctional, or companies I worked in like United and Electrics, which were broke those parts of when I went there. The first thing is profile all the people so we understand each other, because we all take things personally, but often it's just the way someone's been created, and we get too serious about it, and so how we build the foundation, and so I'm a zero detail person. I'm a big picture person, obviously, So I'm not interested in details, but I have good people to manage the detail today, so I can be crazy Mike. But I learn best when so how do you best learn? Good things to understand. I feel the most stress when. And again, I told you the thing around stress equals lack of information and different things like that, but what actually causes your stress? Some of us the way we're creative, we more just focus on being able to juggle one ball at once. Some of us are more creative to do many. Some of us with ADHD, we find we're doing far too many. And sometimes even I have to say, hang on, stop, I've got 15 things I'm actually doing. I'm going to just slow down and come back and actually finish these things too and have some discipline around it. But when I know I'm like that, I know I have to do that. So I find I'm most comfortable when. So what does that mean to you? You know, I find that what makes you feel uncomfortable. You know, these are really good things to understand about ourselves. The thing I need the most help with is I'm most comfortable asking for help by. And great leaders ask questions. A lot of businesses, you know, and we're going to talk about this coming up, you know, the reasons they don't grow beyond a certain size, it's a limitation of the leader. And because we often have too much pride that we don't want to ask for help or don't want to say, I don't know what to do. But it's how we break through those ceilings. You know, I don't know how to do that. I don't know, can you help me actually with this? And that's how we get through these ceilings. So these are good things to understand and process. So actually, what are the real things I actually need help with, you know, in my journey if I'm called to business? You know, and this can apply in life as well, can't it? You know, because a lot of these, our weaknesses in that affect other relationships too. But so how do I, you know, break through? So you just want to do that, there should be a thing in your thing like that, and you want to just answer those for yourself. But again, these are good exercises to come back and reflect on, because if we're really about growth mindset, and we were being very honest with ourselves here too, and look at ourselves, oh gosh, am I really like that? What does, you know, one thing I always done with the Pappy profiles, I sent it to my chairman, because I've done it about 5 times, 6 times, and the first time I ever did it, I gave it to my wife. She said, oh my goodness, it's you, isn't it? I said, yes. and I gave it to my chairman. He said, "Oh my goodness, that's you, isn't it?" You know the good points, the bad points, and everything. But you know, but it's good for us to look at ourselves. It's good to see where we need help. How do we grow? How do we actually? Because then we can find a way to do that too. You know.
Mike, what was that assessment you did?
A Pappy profile, PAPI, or you know, there's lots of different disc profiles and different ones.
I use Gallup does the same thing.
Yeah. Quite like a Pappy one. It's about 21 different things in your personality.
How do you spell that?
PAPI, and it's quite an old one. If anyone wants to follow up and get it, like, there's a person I can refer you to. It's really cost effective, but it helps you to understand yourself, you know, and how you tick. And write down how you're open book emotionally, or how you tick. And it's so important as a leader in particular, we know how we tick. So you want to do that for a few minutes? I know one of the things I used to struggle with is I'm zero detail, so I just need someone to tell me just a little bit of information, and that's enough, man, I'll work with that. But you have direct reports coming to you that actually are 3 or 5 on detail. They actually need a lot more than just what I would naturally give, you know. So something I had a manager up says quite high detail. He says, I need more than 2 just dots of information. But that's what we've got to understand. You know, that's why there's dynamics and teams and frustration builds in that. So we have to understand how we will operate, you know, how we've been created. And it's not wrong, we're just different. Unique abilities.
Can you give examples for that last? I'm most comfortable asking for help by. Can you give an example?
So it could be, for instance, could be going online and researching. It could be more approaching another business owner around things like that, or it could be, different things like that.
It could be when you know the answers.
Wouldn't that defeat the purpose?
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying is, so again, the small business, and this is what I believe is so we grow often to a 5 or 6 size business. And we cap out because that's as much as we can sort of be sealing out at that point. And so it's that thing of invention to that next level. But generally business owners only do that by asking questions, getting coaching, getting mentoring, or getting some advisory voice to help them through. And that's been what's been instrumental with our group, having professional directors that are really challenging me and even my chairman will say to me, well, Mike, you've been talking about that for a while. When is that going to happen? Okay, you know, it's sort of like, and they have a directors only session where they talk about me, and you know, that's all right.
Excuse me, right? I don't think we're getting the mic.
All the way back.
No, it's gone.
No.
Hello?
No, it's not working again.
One of the batteries low on it or
Lights
something.
We're going to find that out.
Cool.
Sorry, you just go a bit loud.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think it's a really important thing about small business is just how you break through those different ceilings of growth, you know, and but it does come down to those ceilings and that reinvention and being intentional around it. You don't just suddenly become that, you have to be intentional of it to change your leadership and grow as a leader. So this growth mindset stuff is actually really important with that and how you make that transition, you know. Cool. All right, we're going to go on to the next one. So that's just something you can park away, you can do again or do it in your teams. But it's not about doing it alone, is it? You're getting that? And you're not doing it alone, you're doing it with God, but you've got teams of supportive people around, and you need to have teams of supportive people around. You can't do just the chair on the top of the gravel pile. It's about, you know, staying in the chair, getting encouragement, getting coaching, mentoring, asking questions, and breaking through. So as business owners, we must develop a growth mindset. Strong leadership, continual learning and innovation are key to a thriving business today. So we must seek out learners, valuing people who show a real commitment to learning. So in your teams, who are those employees who really embrace this stuff too? Because they're the ones who will change your business, you know? See that video I played even around leadership earlier? The guy talking about, you know, we often think when we retire we're going to go and do this stuff, but the impact you have every day to change lives and make a difference, and because you're called to business. We show all our team members that stuff, you know. It's about how we get this message out to every single person in that jigsaw. So, allow employees to step up out of their daily work to build skills such as collaboration and leadership. So one thing we do is we give offer team leader allowances to staff, so they can get like another $2 or $3 an hour, and they get called a team leader, and it's a safe way for them to trial out leadership. If it doesn't work, it's okay. They don't have to leave the company. You know, they can come back out of that role. That's how we build our next generation of leaders, and that's we've done that for 15 years, and it works really, really well. And then we have training programs around what it means to be a team leader, and that's where we go through a lot of this stuff to actually teach them. And now we have leadership scholarships, which we have internal and external education programs, and part of that's the profiles they get done so they understand themselves as well. And it's about building a culture that is willing to take risks and accept failure. You know, we absolutely fail at things, there's absolutely things, and probably I often get asked, you know, well, what's your failures, Mike? Well, actually, there are failures. They tend to be quite focused out the windscreen and trying to learn from them and move on from them. But, you know, we started doing whole work with Whangarei years ago under the advanced business, and you know, that fear robs faith, but you know, I took too long to take the step to open an office up there and things like that. The GFC came along and we ended up retreating. It was like everything was wasted, you know. We now have an office up there, but yeah, so, but I'm still a believer that everything has its purpose and nothing's ever wasted. So it isn't necessarily a failure too. That makes sense? You know, it's still, you know, got to believe the timing was right too. There's a God piece in it as well. Okay, so, driving commitment, determination and innovation. You don't give up. You keep on keeping on. So Reinvention, we did this, so we in group have, we have a big management meeting, it's every 6 months, and in May and in November, and it's a big day event, and we have 40 managers that attend across the different businesses, but we select 5 random guests in the business to come along. It could be an apprentice, it could be an admin person and that, because there's no secrets there, but how do we break down the layers in an organisation and the hierarchical structure, and to have 5 random people in the organisation going and say, man, this was actually really cool to everyone else, is a real great way to get the message out, you know, and And whenever we have a management meeting, we have a theme. So one we did is around teams, and we asked the New Zealand Fire Service to come and talk to us. And they said they'd never had an organisation ask the New Zealand Fire Service head office to send someone to speak to their staff before. And they were awesome. They wouldn't accept any money for it, so we sent a great big basket of stuff to them. And they brought fire suits, and our teams crawled across the floor, breathing apparatus on, and they shared about how the fire service goes with a team and different things like that. We've done it on leadership, we've done it, and we did it on reinvention. And for one thing about the future of business, but the reinvention of ourselves and understanding the different stages in our lives and the types of reinvention we go into. So that's where some of this content's come over the years, because so every single management meeting we have a different theme. One, we've done culture before, you know, and or someone's had a speaker come in around culture, or we create our own content around that. And so a management meeting is not just a management meeting to see how we've been going, where we're going, it's about personal development as well. So, because it costs a lot of money to pull 40 managers and 5 random guests from 20 offices. So how do we get the best value out of that? And have some real fun with it as well. So reinvention. So what is the difference between change and reinvention? You know what I think about that? All reinvention requires change, but not all changes are a reinvention. There are 3 types of reinvention which you will all have experienced. So reactive reinvention. So I am a marathon runner and I blow my knee. If you fix that, or is it dead?
Still dead.
Okay. So, you know, I'm a marathon runner, I blow my knee. Oh, blowing my knee. You know, I'm sure I was going to get to the Olympics, or maybe I was an Olympic trainer, and you know, that's really soul destroying, isn't it? Because it's been my dream. You know? So what do we do at that point? That's called reactive reinvention, right? So it could be a relationship breakup and different things like this. There's a whole lot of emotion that can be hurt, but we're forced to change. We reinvent due to the situation that's actually occurred. Okay? So your girlfriend dumps you, you know, someone dies. All these things cause us, you know, often a lot of emotional stress and grief and different things like that. And we have to reinvent ourselves due to that. So I might be the marathon runner. So instead of now being the marathon runner, I'm actually going to be a coach. You know, and I'm going to do something differently. But that process is reactive reinvention. Proactive reinvention, it's the ceilings here. You know, I want to become CEO one day. So if I'm going to do that, I've got to proactively reinvent myself. I'm going to have to do some study, I'm going to have to listen to some webinars, I'm going to have to do some different things, I'm going to have to earn my stripes, you know. Or I want to become healthier, you know, so I've actually got to make that conscious decision to actually do that, you know. Well, sometimes we do it because out of a reactive situation too, but you see what I'm saying, paint a picture of this. There's reactive reinvention, and then there's the proactive reinvention, you know. So proactive reinvention is when you intentionally change in order to capitalise on a trend or opportunity in front of you. And the third is reflective. So, you know, the back of your head you can't see without a mirror. Sometimes we cannot see the problem with ourselves or in our situation. And that's where we need trust people to speak into our lives. Sometimes it's a counsellor, sometimes it's a mentor, and different things, or a coach to help us through that. Do we get that? Mm-hmm. We agree with that? Mm-hmm. So these are these 3 types of reinvention. So you've all been through it. But actually, knowing what you're actually going through actually matters, because it helps you to get through it quicker. So if we are in this situation, gee, this is a blow in my knee, and now I'm feeling sorry for myself. Like I got made redundant, again, like I said before. How quickly I can actually change to be where I'm going, the better. You know, I have to get my head out of looking at the rear view mirror. I've got to get looking out the windscreen. When I was a kid, there was a movie called The Gumball Rally. A lot of you guys probably don't. Yeah. Us older ones will remember. And there's a scene in there, it might be the French team, and they hop in this car, and they get the review mirror and they rip it off and they throw it away. We won't be needing that, you know. But it's not quite that, because these things all shape us, but we have to change our mindset to be back looking out the windscreen, otherwise we'll crash. You know, and the sooner we can do that, the better. Make sense? So, in your little books, you should have a little exercise. And this is really a personal bit of reflection thing. And I think it's probably a good opportunity to maybe have a bit of prayer. If anyone who wants prayer after this, it's a good thing too, because this is a bit of a reflection on maybe what are some of those reactive situations in your life, and what's some proactive ones, and you know, what's some reflective ones. You know, and when I did this with our management team, that triggered a few emotions with a few people. So if that's something you want to work through, and then we have a break for prayer time or something like that, Clarky, you know, too. But these are good exercises to go through, because it helps us to understand how would we transition more quicker out of those at these different times and put our energy into the different directions. Does that make sense? No? Yes? All right, have a go. You found it in there? I have to. I said, looking back at my life, you know, I said, you know, getting made redundant as a reactive one was quite a key thing in the change in my direction. You know, so these different things, I guess, after 4 weeks of feeling sorry for myself, probably not getting out of bed, you know, you start to dream, you start to dream again, you start to get back on bus again, you know, but these things are still quite key in our thinking, that changes us, you know. So.
I think also a loss of an employee, for example, person resigns for whatever reason, perhaps they're going on to better things, or sometimes, for whatever reason, and you often question yourself.
Oh yeah, look, you're very true. You know, it's one thing that keeps me awake at night, is if I lose a good person, I feel like it. It's really the only thing that keeps me awake at night, is that if I feel like it's someone down in that district, you know, and it's people, is, you know, it's interesting, yeah, I totally relate to it, you know, and, but, yeah. And that's got something I want to share. When down the back got something they want to share?
I had a proactive reinvention a number of years ago when the Lord told me that He called me for business, which was a really strange thing because I had not from a business background, no one around me was in business, and then had positioned me to then call me into ministry and told me I could go anywhere around the world I wanted to go. And if I did that, and He told me exactly what I needed to do. And if I chose to trust Him with it, He kept me paying clients. If I said yes, which then I did, He said sell everything. And I had an 18-year-old at home, so we left home the same day. And I moved to Thailand, and that all happened within 4 months.
Wow.
And she went into Kabul to school. And I started parenting via social media. And now we're 10 years on, and I've been doing that for 10 years.
Wow.
And the Lord's always provided, and that was, I was 40, so it was like a huge reinvention of life, which was so foreign to anything I'd ever done, and anyone around me who'd ever done. And I haven't met anybody who's done it in a faith-based way since. So it's very encouraging to see that. That was the beginning of my business journey with God, a total reinvention of life.
Cool.
We had Rob Botter in the GFC, got him fell out of the dairy market, and we were quite highly
we'd been really sweet, and then we went out and bought an orchard and all sorts of silly things. And we had to give all our staff notice, and we shut doors and everything. And God gave me this picture of this woman scooping into a barrel, and every time she scooped, it was right down the bottom, there was nothing left, it was the final scoop, every single time. It just gave me this promise that even though we're at the bottom of the barrel, there'd always be something in the bottom of the barrel.
Wow, yeah, cool.
And the other picture he gave me was, it was to do with Psalm 23, and because we're from a farming background and farming related products, it was a farmer break feeding, anyone follows that, and the cows had eaten down their little strip, and they were bellowing because there was absolutely nothing left, and they're desperate and they're crying out, and the farmer's just laughing because he knows all he has to do is wind up the tape, and there's another whole paddock right there, or it's just behind the hedge and the cows can't see. The farmer's got the whole farm, and he's only just given this little bit, and we've got to sail through the day the guys were to finish, and so we gave them 2 more weeks, and then another one, and 2 more weeks, and we really enjoyed it ourselves.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really neat. So it's an interesting area, and just how we navigate different events in our lives, and I think that's the whole thing of COVID and the COVID economy we're dealing with at the moment too, because some of our businesses here will be impacted. But how do we reinvent coming out of that, or how do we pivot, and how do we get that head to look out, just to look out our windscreen and take those face steps and cast fear aside and step one foot in front of the other, is really important. The sooner we do that, the better, and I was saying to someone at lunch that going to COVID is we just had a 4-pronged strategy, 4-point strategy. The first one was about the virus and health and safety and well-being and honouring what the government said, because that's what we have to do, and our second one was BAU, was business as usual as much as possible. 3 was cost management, and 4 was opportunities, how we focus on opportunities. Really after 2 weeks we were all focusing on the opportunities, to be out the windscreen, so how fast as possible we've got to get looking back out there and our eyes on the horizon, whether that's through pivots or different things, how we do that, so. Cool. Anyone else want to share?
It was 8 years ago, I was at a business ed conference, and the creative speaker asked this question at the end. He said, do you want to reach the end of your life just to be left wondering whether your dream or your idea would it have worked? And I had this idea of cycling on water, and I thought, no, I want to do this. So then suddenly, when I made the decision I was going to do this, then I was on the lookout for who can help me, because I couldn't do it by myself. And God directed me to a designer who lived in Tauranga, and he helped me design that. And that was 8 years ago. We just sent out our first 2 containers 2 weeks ago. So you've got to be patient with this stuff.
Yeah. Cool. Anybody else? No one's going to be an Olympic runner or anything. But you get the point. But this is how we navigate these times, and how we have the right mindset, and how we keep our eyes on our dreams and what's God's plan for our life is, I think. So cool. Hey, so do we want to break to have a bit of prayer time around this? Taki, what's your view?
I'm open to that. For people, or do you want to wait until a little later in the afternoon?
Okay. People, carry on. Or?
I was going to say something. Just hearing what a few people have said, but also in my experience, like 2012, I was having a challenge with my brother on the farm over management strategies. I was a biological farmer and he was a chemical one, and he became a trustee of the farm, the family farm that I was on, and he wanted to change me back to the chemical system, and I just said, no, you do what you like, but I'm leaving. And that made a massive fallout in the family.
Yeah.
And I hated him for what he did to me, because the farm was supposed to be going to me.
Yeah.
And I walked away from that. And but a bit the same as Tanya here. When one day I just felt God saying, "You're going to leave," and when we made that decision, we made that decision, and 1 month after making that decision, we had gone, and we'd been there for 35 years.
Wow.
And we had a prophetic prophecy over us by a team of 8 people that actually didn't know what they were praying for, but they wrote a book, and we presented that book, and it told us exactly what was happening. And they had no idea our situation, but they prayed about, they didn't know who we were, but they prayed about us. And we'll talk about that book, and it was entitled The Night That Jesus Came.
Wow.
And it told us half the prophecy was about where we were, and when the lady was reading it out to us, she was crying because she was so emotional because she knew our situation. And the other half was about our future.
Wow.
And that God was going to take us on the wings of eagles and show us a different life.
Yeah.
And so we left the farm, and I said to Sue, I said, "Where do you want to live?" And she says, "Hamilton." So I said, "Right, we're going there. No house, no job." And now, coming up 8 years later, I'm running a project that is nationwide, and my brother has come to me, and now I'm advising on how to go from chemical to biological, and it's a game changer for the country.
Wow, that's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, just,
So, yeah.
and I was just thinking that if it wasn't for God, how would you move on from stuff like that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Anyone else got something they want to share? Thank you for that. That's awesome. Anyway, it's quite a good exercise going through this and being mindful of the situation we're going through and how we navigate out of it. You know, and again, if we're going to try and break through ceilings, how do we proactively reinvent to get through those ceilings as well? You know, how do we position ourselves to get through? You know, and that's very much what I've had to do in my walk. And I do a number of professional board roles now, and even that is like there's a few ceilings to go through because suddenly in companies which are like AUT or and Waipā Networks, a power company, which is totally different. But it's really neat, and it's great when you break through because you're learning, you know, and that's what we've got to be doing, you know, proactively reinventing, you know, so.
It's interesting with my background with no business experience at all, and feeling, you were saying before how, little old me talking to these CEOs, and I felt that little person syndrome as well, but I've really stepped into this. I feel so called to be in business, and I feel that everything that who I am and all my skills, talents, everything is made for business, and it's so wonderful to embrace it, and I get so excited to meet, all you guys, totally different professions, and it's so exciting to me to hear your stories.
Yeah, cool. I think the thing, one I hang on to a lot is being the head and not the tail, and calling things. I got no hesitation. The New Zealand Defence Force, they're a big client of ours, and they try to poach some of our staff. Anyway, so I rang my assistant director. I was not a happy camper. And I said, "Are you near a computer at all?" "Oh, no, I'm not at the moment." I said, "Well, okay, I'm just going to go to the Defence website." "What, the values of New Zealand Defence Force? Can you repeat them to me? Please tell me." I read them out. "So why on earth is New Zealand Defence Force trying to poach our people?" That is not acceptable. We don't have to things are blatantly wrong. We stand up for what's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I was not a happy camper. And then, so well, hang on a minute, Mike, let me look into this. I said, "There's no looking into it, I've already got the evidence." "Well, I'll come back to you tomorrow." And they came back and they didn't do anything at all. They didn't touch our people and that, because that's not the rules of engagement. It's not good faith. Didn't live with the values of integrity and all the things of government. And that's one thing we've learned. And we've learned, doesn't matter who it is. No one's a banker in here, we bank with a bank, and it's a very good bank, and they've always backed us 100%. But we had information that they had a capital solutions part, which is data mining businesses to do roll-ups and with private equity and doing deal transactions. And anyway, And we go right to the boardroom of this bank. And so we lodged a formal complaint to the bank that they were doing this deal in data mining information. It's front page Herald that got out. That's how bad it was. And anyway, we took them on, and they launched this big investigation, and we said, we know you have accessed our information. We believe you've released it to a competitor, and we put them on. This is our bank, you know, which, you know, we owe millions and millions and millions of dollars to, you know. And they investigated, and yes, they admitted our information was accessed on these dates and stuff like this. And then they tried to make it go away, and again we go to the boardroom, so we said to the chairman of the board, this is pretty untidy. We caused a complete restructure in the bank.
Wow.
That part of the bank actually has been changed now, but they were now blocked from accessing through the CRMs the rest of the bank's information and stuff like that. They completely changed their rules.
Wow.
And now that does not happen anymore.
Mm.
But it takes courage when it's your bank too to actually stand up and say, actually this is not right,
Mm.
and we're not going to have it, you know.
Wow.
And some of our advisors, which are the big four, PwC, KPMG, they said, well, we're not going to raise it. Well, I am. They're going to be the head and not the tail, you know. Yeah, but it's an amazing outcome. So then we had all the, you know, I had Steve Jerkovich, who's the CEO of Q, I've been out of bank, it was ASB Bank, you know, and Steve Jerkovich is now the CEO of Kiwi Bank, and he was corporate GM then at ASB, you know, executive general manager. And so he rings me up, he texts me on a Friday night, and this is when it's all brewing. He says, oh, because I said it's appalling, someone from the top of the bank hasn't rung me, you know, in the exec team. And so I get this text from Steve Jerkovich, I'm available to take the call. So I rang back at 9 o'clock on a Friday night. And he just tried to shut me down and said, it's not happening. I said, actually it is. And I can give you the names and I can tell you everything.
How did that come to your attention?
Oh, little networks, you know. So, but yeah, what I'm saying is we're called and we have an authority. I mean, times we have to stand up for what we really believe in and challenge. And you know what? Every time we've ever done it, we've had a great outcome. You know, because we're called to business and we've got an authority in that place. And we do it respectfully, but I think it's something really, really important. And I can give you, I had one years ago too, that with Mercury, the generator company, and they had a senior manager who was abusing our people, you know, F this and F that, and just. So I rang up someone in Mercury and I said, I'm coming up there for a meeting, and I can tell you what, if you ever speak to that person, ever speaks to our people like that way again, you will not be a customer of ours. And they never ever did that again. You know, so these things we stand up for, and we get respected from it too. So ASB still likes us.
God's name wasn't Tony, was it?
But it helps when you go to the boardroom because it's sort of like, yeah. All right. You know, a few things too. I mean, I probably stand up here today, you know, and I probably didn't say this enough. I probably stand up today here quite confidently, and you might think I'm quite confident and it's been easy for him. There's no one who lacked more confidence than me going into business. Honestly, I was the most nervous and never believed in myself. And it was, was an employee, I would go home, I'd probably complain to my wife about the job. It is very Christian, but you know, but I honestly, I was the total person. I thought I could never. I had this dream, but I was just so lacked confidence, you know. And maybe it was these different people, like the boss laughing at me, or you know, my failure at school and different things like that. But again, those things aren't the truth. They're not the truth, and we need to throw them off. And one thing we should be praying today, if you're dragging around 4 suitcases of those different things, they need to be released and set free from you. And you need to be set free from them, you know, because those things aren't the truth. And again, the failures, all that things, it's not the truth, you know. And going right back to what, someone said what the TPT actually means, and I know I gave you the scripture, but it's our number 1 trust is called the promise trust. i.e. all of God's promises, is the naming, you know. So, yeah. But again, you know, is all these things get spoken over us. Sometimes it can be in our upbringing where we might have a loved one that says we're useless. It's not the truth, you know. So I think it's really important. You know. Cool. I think just probably break for 3 minutes or 5 minutes if it works, and then we can come back and push into the next one. Stretch your legs.